This is Reuters Today. Coming up, why Asia's rich can't get enough of luxury handcrafted cars from Malaysia. We start though with the IMF, the fund urging rich countries to stop the political wrangling it says is slowing growth in both advanced and emerging economies.
Where should we see action? Certainly in Europe and more specifically in the Eurozone, which is still at this point the epicenter of the crisis and where most urgent action is needed.
In other economic news, S&P cuts Spain's sovereign credit rating. The move comes with a negative outlook, bringing S&P in line with Moody's, which has also has Spain on watch for downgrade to junk status. And interest rate cuts in Brazil and South Korea. Rates in Brazil now at a record low of 7.25%, with the central bank signalling a pause in its year-long easing cycle. South Korea also seen on hold for a while after cutting for the second time in 4 months. Well, I'm joined now by Commerzbank's Peter Dixon. Peter, how will markets react to the Spain downgrade? On the one hand, no surprise really, but on the other, it was because all eyes were on Moody's, not S&P.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but I mean, I think what it does is simply ratchet up the tension surrounding Spain. Puts more pressure on them, perhaps, to finally cave into demands for a bailout. And it just adds, I think, to the general degree of uncertainty surrounding Spain, but obviously the whole of the Eurozone crisis. We don't appear to be any nearer any form of resolution, and I think that the downgrade reflects the fact that the governments, not just in Spain, but I think across the Eurozone, are failing to get to grips with the problems.
As one analyst put it in his note this morning, junked if you do, junked if you don't. Rajoy is definitely between a rock and a hard place. Spain has to raise over 200 billion euros next year. How is he going to steer his country through this?
With a great deal of difficulty. I mean, I think the Spanish Prime Minister hasn't really been honest perhaps with himself, and certainly not with his electorate about the problems facing Spain. I mean, he's insisted, I think, for a long time now that Spain can, tough it out and get through this by itself. It can't. And as you pointed out, with 200 billion of issuance next year, it's going to require aid. And I think the sooner we get the mechanism in place to ensure that financing can be secured, I think the more the markets will breathe a sigh of relief.
So we've got the downgrade for Spain today. We've just heard from Christine Lagarde at the IMF warning over the Eurozone. How will all of this affect demand at Italy's bond auction today, up to 6 billion euros on the block? Yeah, I mean, obviously, at the margin, I think it's going to push prices up, down a little bit, rather. But, ultimately, I think Italy is not seen as being in the epicenter of the crisis right now. I mean, obviously, when there are worries in Spain, it does tend to spill over into other southern European markets. I think Italy will get away with it this time. But obviously, as I said, the longer this drags on, the more it's going to put pressure on Italian yields in future. Great stuff, Peter. Thank you very much. Later today, don't miss the third instalment of my exclusive interview with former ECB chief Jean-Claude Trichet. Today he talks about managing dissent within the ECB ranks, his successor Mario Draghi, and the central bank's mandate. That's available from 9 a.m. London time. Now, more on that Lenovo story. Reuters' Tara Joseph is in Hong Kong. Tara, Lenovo has knocked HP off the perch as #1 global PC maker. Quite a story.
Well, it is a story, but it really depends on whose numbers you actually believe, Jamie. According to Gartner Consultancy, basically Lenovo has taken the #1 spot. But if you listen to another consultancy, IDC, Lenovo's almost there, but not quite. But basically the headline is Lenovo is really working its way up in the world. It's got about 15.5% of the global market of PC sales. It's got excellent sales in China, and it's riding high, especially compared to American computer makers.
But it's not just Lenovo, is it?
Well, no, it's not just Lenovo. What we're seeing as a trend is that the Asian PC makers, there's also Acer in Taiwan, are starting to outshine the U.S. PC makers. That's HP and also Dell and smaller players. But overall, the view is that the PC market is not going through very good times. You've got all these smartphones and phablets and all this stuff that's really pushing business away from the PC market. People are waiting for Microsoft Windows 8 as the next big thing for PC makers. So whether today's news is anything great to announce for PC makers at all is really a question mark, because it's not a great time for that side of the industry.
It's certainly not, Tara. Thank you very much. In other corporate news, luxury fashion house Burberry confirms revenue growth is slowing. Demand in the UK and China eased in Q2, with overall sales at stores open over a year rising only 1%. That's it for now. I'll leave you though with news of a Malaysian brand bucking the trend for slowing luxury goods demand. Handcrafted car maker Bufore is struggling to keep up as orders pour in from China and the Middle East. The cars cost between $150,000 and $300,000, but the hefty price tag is no barrier to Asia's rich, with customers willing to wait nearly 2 years for their order. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.